I would like to advise all those present that notice of this special meeting of the Municipal Council of the City of Bayonne for June 11th, 2025 has been provided to the public in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey. Notice of time and place of the meeting was posted and filed with the city clerk and was forwarded to the Bergen Record and the Star Ledger electronically, is it, on June 9th, 2025. Special meeting of the Municipal Council of the City of Bayonne is now in session. Ms. Medina, please call the roll.
Mr. Booker?
Here.
Mr. Carroll?
Here.
Mr. Perez?
Here.
Ms. Weimer?
Here.
Mr. La Palusa?
Here, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is from the Honorable James M. Davis, Mayor, calling a special meeting of the Municipal Council for Wednesday, June 11, 2025, immediately following the council caucus at 6 p.m. Would like to move it.
Move it.
Second.
And on that one, Mr. Booker?
Aye.
Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Weimer? Mr. La Palusa?
Aye.
R1 is a resolution endorsing the City of Bayonne's fourth-round housing element and fair share plan and approving the spending plan and rehabilitation manual in accordance with the New Jersey Fair Housing Act as amended by PL 24C2, Administrative Directive 14-24, and the rules of the New Jersey Council on Affordable Housing contained in NJAC 5:93 et sec.
Can we do this as a whole?
Sure. Okay. Do you want, before you take the vote, you want clarity?
So, this is also, the reason we're having this special meeting is because this has to be done within 48 hours after the planning board meeting, which was just yesterday. So that's the reason for the special meeting. We asked Derek Orth to come here so he can give us an overview and explain a little bit more about our fourth round spending and the plan.
Thank you, Council President, members of the Council. It's great to be here again. Again, Derek Orth from Inglesino Taylor. John Wichascala is my partner. I know he's here quite frequently in Bayonne. I myself am your Special Affordable Housing Council, and so I typically only come here, like I mentioned, about once a decade. And why is that? Well, it's because our affordable housing obligations in this state are designed to come around once a decade. So the last time I was here presenting to this council was in 2015. So let me try to not overburden everyone here with information, but I'll present a generalized overview, and then I'm going to get into the specifics of the housing plan that we have in front of you this evening for endorsement. And Council President, as you noted, what I'm requesting your approval tonight is an endorsement of your fourth round housing element and fair share plan. We do have attached to that as an exhibit a draft spending plan and a draft rehab manual as well. So, affordable housing in New Jersey, this was established back at a Supreme Court decision in 1975. Fast track to where we are today. In 2015, our state Supreme Court decided that the Council on Affordable Housing was basically a moribund agency, is the words that they used in that decision. Ineffective, wasn't doing anything. And so what the Supreme Court did is they returned jurisdiction over affordable housing compliance back to the courts. So in 2015, the City Council, Mayor, I've been working with Sue Mack now since that time, filed on behalf of the city a third round affordable housing plan in State Superior Court in Hudson County, and we ultimately obtained approval of that plan from State Superior Court, endorsed here by the City Council. It's now 2025, and last year the state legislature, in a bill signed by the governor, established the fourth round of affordable housing. They amended the statewide Fair Housing Act. And as part of that amendment, the legislature determined that in January of this year, each municipality, if they opted to participate in this program and demonstrate compliance with their affordable housing obligation, had to adopt a resolution declaring what their obligation was and to submit that to a new statewide affordable housing dispute resolution program, and the City of Bayonne did just that. The Council adopted a resolution in January affirming what your rehabilitation obligation was, and we submitted that to the statewide program. Now, the city of Bayonne, like probably 30 or 40 municipalities throughout the state, is what is called a qualified urban aid municipality, which means that you do not have a new construction obligation. Your obligation is to provide a mechanism for the rehabilitation of existing substandard units to be completed. And you do that through either taking credit or working with your housing authority or other qualified entities in your municipality who rehab units, or you provide money from your spending plan, which I'll get to in a second, to facilitate the renovations and repairs of these units. The DCA determined that your rehab obligation was 749 units. Sounds like a big number. I know it does. However, if we go back and we look at what the city of Bayonne has done since 2020, which is when the rehab obligation started because it's tied to the census, Bayonne has actually already rehabbed approximately 982 units as of today. Some of them are planned for the future, which I'll get to a little bit later on, but the city is very active through your housing authority in rehabbing units for your residents who fall within that category. I think one thing that was noted last night, which I wholeheartedly agree with, is that you are blessed with a very active and very qualified and excellent housing authority in town. Your housing authority probably manages more units than I'd say 90% of other housing authorities throughout the state. They have wonderful professionals. They deal constantly with contractors, developers, repairmen, and they do a great job of managing their housing stock in town. So one of the main mechanisms that we are relying upon to, both from a looking back perspective and a going forward perspective, is to work with the housing authority to provide funding from our spending plan to fund the rehab of existing units in Bayonne. So there is a draft housing plan which was prepared by Brian Slough of Clark Caton Hintz, and Suzanne Mack. She had quite, as usual over the last 10 years or 20 years she's been working here with her in Bayonne. She had quite a bit of influence in it, and she's overseen it as your affordable housing liaison. So we do two things in this plan. We take credit, or we take a look back and we tally up the rehab that has been done, and we also look forward and we provide a plan for rehabs going forward. And so if we take a look back at what we have done, as I had mentioned, you have already done in excess of 900 rehabs in the city. The city's very active in that area, which is a wonderful thing that really benefits Bayonne residents. Going forward, we have a couple of projects I want to highlight, which I think are great for the city, and we talked about them last night at the planning board. That would include, give me one second. We're going to work on an ongoing basis with the Bayonne Housing Authority. They are going to manage,
Thank you.
bless you.
Thank you.
They're going to manage rehabs for both owner-occupied and renter-occupied smaller buildings. We're talking about, smaller units or smaller buildings consisting of 1 to 6 units, some of which are perhaps owner-occupied. As I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, we used to call it half of a double, right? So if you had one half the building you lived in, you rented out the other half, and that's owner-occupied. We are able to provide funding for rehabs to those. We're also looking at the smaller buildings, 3 to 6 units, and we're providing funds for the rehab of those units. Those are all proposed to be overseen by the professionals of the Housing Authority, and there is a draft rehab manual attached as an exhibit to this to the housing plan, which has a draft procedure which we'll later go into at a future date. The next thing is your Hudson County Home Program. That's a program operated by the county in conjunction with the city, and individuals living in Bayonne are able to work with the county to obtain funding for improvements to their housing stock, and the city participates in that as well. The City of Bayonne and the Housing Authority has also significantly rehabbed the Plattykill Manor Apartments, and we also did provide funding and assistance to the Oak Street Bergen County United Way project, which is new construction. So one of the, I think, one of the nice parts of this plan is that we have significant dollars proposed to be outlaid in conjunction with the Housing Authority for the Bayonne Family Community Center. And that is, to my knowledge, the last remaining SRO in this county. That building, which was, I heard last night, built by the Rockefellers back in the 1920s, as our planner noted, it has good bones, it's a good structure, but it does need some work to, fix the roof, the HVAC, and other critical portions of that building so that the folks that are living there have a safe, secure place to live for now and also going forward. So we've allocated about $2.5 million to fund that rehab work there. There's approximately 109 SROs in that building, which is great for the city. We also have, as I mentioned, I'm going to call it the prospective bucket of rehab work or affordable housing expenditures, which is proposed. We have to divide the mechanisms to spend the dollars in our Affordable Housing Trust Fund into general buckets. Some of them we have specific projects for, like the SRO at the Bayonne Family Community Center, some of which are unidentified, but the funds are labeled, they are there, they are available, and at a future date, if there's a specific project identified, which is not included in any of these buckets, we can come back before the council and ask your consent to expend dollars out of your Affordable Housing Trust Fund for that endeavor. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund, what is that? That is a trust fund that Bayonne maintains. It is not, resident taxpayer dollars. It is outside of the general levy. The funds in that account are comprised of the non-residential development fees, which are imposed by state statute and collected by the city of Bayonne, and they are imposed whenever a builder comes in for a CO. There's an initial calculation of what the fee is. There's a confirmation of that at the end of construction. There's typically an inspection, like what I just mentioned for the refund on that other Hook Road site. And the fee is collected and put into your Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And one of the things here to note is, if the city didn't collect that fee, it's a fee imposed by state statute. So the state would have a right to take that fee and put it into their statewide Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So why not collect that money and use it to benefit the people here in the city? And that's exactly what we do. And Sue, if I look back, when I first got hired here by the city, I think our Affordable Housing Trust Fund had about $1 million, correct? We had less than $1 million. Over the last 10 years, we're now up to about $15 million. And we have planned expenditures for those dollars, which are all going to benefit residents in the city of Bayonne. And so it's a great thing for the city, and the funds can be used for many different things. Infrastructure improvements to inclusionary housing projects. They can be used for rental assistance, down payment assistance. They can be used for, if the city opted to provide a grant to a 100% affordable housing project, which we have done in the past. For instance, to come up with a, another layer of gap financing for a project which is otherwise funded by the state. The city is able to make that expenditure from its Affordable Housing Trust Fund and levy those dollars, which have to be spent, by the way. We can't transfer the money to the general fund. We have to spend the dollars on affordable housing activity in the city. And so one of the reasons we instituted this action and we're participating in this process is because the spending plan, which is attached as an exhibit to your housing plan, is a mechanism which enables us to hold on to those dollars. If you remember back in 2011 and 2012, Governor Christie, through the state, attempted to seize Affordable Housing Trust Fund dollars, over, I think, $300 million, which had not been spent by various municipalities throughout the state. So this spending plan constitutes a commitment by the city to spend those dollars. It allows you to maintain them, to utilize them in your discretion for qualifying affordable housing activities to benefit your residents. And so that's the housing element and fair share plan for the fourth round. This is a master plan document, so it is a document that originates from the planning board. It's an element of your master plan. However, the Fair Housing Act requires a city council to endorse that plan as part of the court-wide participation process. The spending plan, which again is in draft form, it can be modified at a later date, is the province of the governing body. You are allowed, it is your charge to decide how those funds are spent, and that's why there is a specific resolution by the governing body proposed this evening to endorse that spending plan. What happens next, just briefly, assuming the council approves by resolution or endorses this housing plan tonight and also authorizes the submission of the draft spending plan, I will take the document, I will submit it to the statewide Affordable Housing Dispute Resolution Program. They have a website. I put it in through there. And there will be a time period, approximately 2 months, where anyone, if they so chose, could file an objection. We do not anticipate any objections to Bayonne's plan. We did not have any objections to Bayonne's plan in 2015 when I handled this first round for the city here. So we'll do that, and ultimately the court and the program will hopefully endorse this plan, the spending plan, and then next year, it won't be 10 years, next year I'll come back and we'll have some more formal governing body documents for the rehab manual, the spending plan, and the associated exhibits that are associated with this endeavor. So happy to answer any questions that you may have. It was a pleasure to appear before you. Yes,
I just
sir.
have a quick one. You mentioned that endorsing this represents a commitment to use those funds. Are we bound by any timeline restriction? Do we have to use the funds within
4 years, technically, yes.
4 years? So what is currently in that Affordable Housing Trust Fund must be used, starting today, within 4 years?
It doesn't actually have to be spent. It has to be committed. So the spending plan constitutes a commitment to spend those dollars. If I came back to you, Councilman, in 3 years, and we said we should do another commitment and modify the spending plan, that's what we would do.
You have to have a plan to spend it. Doesn't.
And by the way, the $15 million sounds like a lot, but if you consider, what is the cost of constructing a unit? It's, I think, on the Bergen County United Way project, the funding stack was something like $220,000.
But it's everything that Mr. Orth just explained to us.
I-
This was spoken in the past about us rehabbing these apartments as
Yeah.
part of our fourth round obligation.
I was just going to answer Derek's question about, so we not only have the money in the plan, I'm the Affordable Housing Monitor, we monitor it. I have to thank Donna Mauer, Claudia Guerin, she controls the accounts. And I do have to thank, we went from $1 million to $15 million, and a lot of that is Joe Bankert. Joe Bankert has been very aggressive about enforcing the non-residential. He's been actually wonderful. So it's a team effort to get those funds in place. But to give you an example, so we have $15 million in. It says perspectives $50 million over a 10-year period because we have a lot of non-residential development coming up. We have Constable Hook coming up, 220 acres of the city. We have Togus, all those good things. But the program that you actually worked on, the Oak Street project, you did that so that we could get $27 million in tax credits for 40 units on Oak Street. So yes, $50 million sounds like a lot of money going in the future, but if you really wanted to do, and I do hope that at some point we do an entire new senior citizen building, that would be in that order. So, it depends on how it is. And I just wanted to point out, because, I'm in the weeds on this one, but, and I think it answers what Neil was getting to, but the fact that you have it in the plan, the spending plan, tonight, you're not obligating the city to do that. You're giving yourself the ability to spend that money and have the court approve it. So those projects you'll be able to move forward on them. Not interlocal agreements and all that other good stuff happens in work before you spend a penny. But this would give you the ability without going back to the court. You get a new project, Derek fills out the paperwork, he goes up, it's Hudson County Superior Court.
So, Jackie, do you want to ask the
Yeah, so I guess my question
Yeah.
is, do we have a copy of the plan in and of itself that we will see the allocation of the funds to each of those individual projects?
Absolutely. So
Yes.
the planning board
Do I-
adopted, the planning board adopted last night. I guess, I don't know,
So we would have gotten it this morning.
What we.
No, I know, I mean, that's what I don't know. This was supposed to be done next week, I do know that, and then this has been on your agenda for next week, so there was supposed to be a week in between, and we were notified, I think on Friday, that this had to be down to the state 2 days after the planning board meeting, not 2 days. Lloyd was there.
Right.
So I'm not involved in the mechanics of what you got, and I leaned over to ask Derek if you had it, he didn't know.
But Councilwoman, I am coming back to you for the formal endorsement of a spending plan, which is probably going to occur either later this year or early next year. This is simply a draft that is
Okay.
attached as an exhibit. So this still has to go to the state. The state has to say, okay, the general parameters of this document are acceptable, and then come back to the city for another meeting where you adopt the resolution.
Derek, would you
Yes.
like to sell me your home for $1 million, but sign this contract that says I'm only going to give you $500,000, but it's in draft? And then I'll come back to you at the end, and perhaps I'll give you that $1 million.
I would not, not that, I just bought a condo, by the way, so I'm
His first.
familiar.
Good for you.
I just did. But what I would say is,
So I guess my question is just, do we have a copy of the allocation? Can I just see the numbers, how we're spending it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
yes.
I was given something today of past projects,
Mhm.
not necessarily something that's going to be spent through this new.
There's a,
new-
hold on,
new,
I have a copy here with me.
Okay.
So I was able to thumb through this on Monday at the pre-agenda meeting. It's quite large, and it has a lot of numbers in there that are impossible for me to remember as president to give you, Jackie. But she can look through that, and I know this has to be a decision
you go
pretty
here.
much today.
And what often happens with, or what we could, talk about this evening is, like I said, this is a draft spending plan. This is not the final spending plan. I will come back to the city council to present this again when it is finalized, and you'll get it in advance. You'll have full opportunity. Any revisions you would like to see or modifications to the plan, you're absolutely able to do that. The main component that we're doing here tonight is the Housing Element and Fair Share Plan endorsement. Now, that document happens to have, as exhibits to the back of this voluminous, like you mentioned, Councilwoman, 150, 200-page document, mandatory exhibits. And one of those is a draft spending plan. And we can clarify orally in the resolution, if you so desire, that the council's endorsement is, it's the endorsement of the Housing Element and Fair Share Plan. There could be a whereas clause added orally, if you so desire, that subject to the approval of the state, the spending plan shall be formally represented to the council at a later date.
But that is going to happen.
Yes, that will happen. It has to happen. I have to come back.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess, so I'm, so where it seems somewhat odd to me
Mhm.
is that we are, and while I have no problem adopting the overall plan in and of itself, I just would have preferred to see the numbers and where we're allocating those dollars to those different programs. And then I just wondered if we had a draft, parameters, even in draft, of some of the qualifications for some of those programs, such as the program that you mentioned for the smaller units,
Sure.
owner-occupied units for the
Yes.
3 to 6 units, how we were going to allow for those funds to be dispersed. Is it going to be a grant program? Is it going to be a low or no-interest loan program?
Great question.
Is it available to small businesses that have residential on top of it? Is it, so obviously there's some other questions that would go along with all that, but mainly I just wondered how we were allocating the funds, and being that we are approving, even in draft, I probably would have appreciated seeing the numbers.
No, and you know what? I fully appreciate that, and I apologize. Let me explain a little bit. The state has told us this is the deadline to have your plans approved. So our our planners, like every other planner who works in this area throughout the state of New Jersey, is doing 30, 40, 50 plans, all in June. Some perhaps in May, but it's all happening in June. And the other towns that I represent, probably for the last week and a half, I've been out till, midnight, working or presenting in council meetings such as this. So
Nobody ever said the state was considerate.
yes, correct. But no, it's fully. I understand your comment. It is very well taken. This is a draft. I will be coming back. What we've done in this, and by the way, there's a rehab manual which does provide the qualifications or the potential qualifications for how, for instance, it's a forgivable grant would be spent on the smaller, 1 to 6 unit buildings or residential buildings at Bayonne. And the way we have drafted it so far is that it is overseen by your housing authority, who has, qualified people to review. There is an application process that would be established. The folks who apply would have to be qualified. There would typically.
And do those qualifications entail a means-tested qualification?
Yes, they
or
do.
an income-tested?
Yes, they do. And the way it typically works is the money is given on repairs, and there's typically a 10-year period when,
A restriction.
if you do not sell your unit in that 10-year time period, it's a forgivable grant. It's gone. If you sell, like for instance, if you accept the funding from the city's trust fund, and in year 2, you decide to sell that unit, you have to pay the city's trust fund back 80%, because it's 10% that would be forgiven every year on the grant.
Oh, I see. So it's
Post-grant.
a laddered.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And so that's the way we set these things up, and happy to, what I will do is, after this meeting, through the city clerk, I'll email a copy of the draft manual. Happy to have you take a look at it, happy to sit down with you, go through it, and, take you all, happy to do that. We can go through it.
I
Yes,
just
sir.
have one last one. With respect to the current $15 million in the
Mm-hmm.
affordable housing, roughly, the spending plan, even
Yes.
as it is proposed tonight, would that deplete, how much would that deplete, if any, dollars from that figure?
As proposed?
Yes.
So the current specifically identified expenditures are approximately the 3.2 or 3.3 for the community center, and in addition, $2 million some odd dollars for rehab work overseen by the housing authority, and the rest is allocated into specific buckets which are available for Bayonne residents to apply for. There are also administrative expenses, which is a small component of the fee. So my fees, your planner fees, any engineering fees, things like that are also paid out of the trust fund, provided that they are related to affordable housing activity.
Roughly $4.5 million.
And
then
it's all
five.
projected, so we're
Right.
plus, but you don't know, what you don't know is how popular is a program going to be. In many cities that I represent, when we roll out these programs, they are exceedingly popular. I have done presentations at community centers for these rehab programs. We have done advertisements, and sometimes there's more applicants for repairs than what is available in the trust fund. You're thinking about lead line replacements, your roof, your HVAC, your doors and windows, critical features of a home. These are things that are expensive to fix, particularly for our low and moderate income residents. And when we roll this program out and we make this available, I do believe it will be a sought-after program in the city.
So, Councilwoman, I could also explain it in probably an easier way. Part of what this plan simply does tonight is, while we're allocating, again, for the spending plan, it talks about the broad parameters right now on what could be spent. So there's a section in there that talks about the rehabilitation programs, new construction on affordable housing units, and related development costs, extensions and improvements of roads, infrastructures, directly serving affordable housing development sites, acquisition or improvement of land to be used for affordable housing, purchase of market rate or affordable housing for purposes of maintenance and implementing affordable controls, green building strategies designed to be low-cost savings for low and moderate income housing, either for new construction that is not funded by other sources, maintenance and repairs of affordable housing, repayment of municipal bonds issued to finance low and moderate housing activities, any other activities specified within the approved spending plan, and then affordability assistance. While I rattled off a list of items, that's kind of the broad parameter of what the adoption of this draft plan allows for, and then for Derek to come back in a couple months, to be a little bit more specific on to the details.
And right, and as specific, prospective projects come up, I'll be looking to you on the council here to give me some direction on, what's something that is worthy of spending our trust fund dollars on. You tell me what to do, and that's what I do.
So-
The examples of what was included in the draft are, they explained about Plattykill Manor, where they wanted to do so much for the kitchen and so much for different rooms, and they allotted $30,000 per unit. And so then you times that by how many units they have, I think it was 100.
They had over 100, correct,
Like that.
yes.
And then that's how we would figure that number out. But for tonight, we don't have that number, but that's what I think Councilman Weimer and myself and the rest of the council are looking for.
Well, part of it, Council President, so I think let's just use the Oak Street project as an example, kind of how Derek was talking about the gap funding there for that project. So in coming up with the 40 units for that site, there was also an additional resolution there that allowed us, to use the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to fund this project, again, to keep the controls there. So as projects come up that need funding, that's where, at that time, the council approves a resolution to spend that money on a per-project basis. So with that, that gave us the gap financing in there to, and we allowed us to put the affordability controls for, seniors and also people with special needs for that project. So that's one of the reasons, why we do it, in that manner. Again, so we could talk about on a per-project basis there. So we could tell you the details, 40 units there, tell you the specific site. But like I said, the purpose of this document, gives us the broad ranges of what we could do for that. So as we, come up with, again, with the rehabilitation for the YMCA, for the single-room occupancy, or or SROs, that, still has to be flushed out as to, what work has to be done, but we're mentioning it in the plan right now, because we know that's going to come up, and we're going to need another resolution to, approve those funds.
And I'll have, as Joe exactly mentioned, I'll have to come back to the council again for an agreement with the Housing Authority for these projects. And the goal here is really initially to provide you all with flexibility under state statute into the buckets of spending. And then as we get more specific in the future or a particular project arises, just like Joe mentioned, come back to the city for a authorization to expend those funds.
Yeah. And kind of how it's drafted right now, for the flexibility, it's more of a prophylactic measure to keep, our 15 million, so the state doesn't have to claw those funds away. So it's written broadly in that regard to protect us. So when we do come up, with the other programs to fund, the money's there to be allocated.
Excuse me, were the council members not provided the draft, is that?
Well,
The draft was on,
I'm asking this.
go ahead, yes.
The draft was given to the council clerk by Brian Slough 10 days before, and also it was posted to the planning board website on this. So I don't know where the confusion is, why the council wasn't given a copy.
To the council, we explained this to you, that other than having a pink sheet attached to it on Monday, I never saw it. So it wasn't like I could give it to the council either, even if you had given it to the president, at least I could have given it to everybody.
My apologies, I thought you were given a copy.
I was only given the pink sheet on Friday, and I was on vacation.
Okay.
So don't even go 10 days
Sure.
with me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it,
Sure.
gentlemen, thank you.
Any other questions?
You're under the bus.
Thank you for your time tonight. It's good to be back again.
Thank you.
And I'll be back again, in a couple of months. Thank you.
So it is kind of putting the cart before the horse. I agree with you 100%. I was only given this tonight, right before the meeting, so it's not like even I had a lot of time to review this.
Is it
So-
safe to assume that we are going to allocate the entire 15 million? And I apologize, Derek.
No problem.
Yeah.
So we have 5.2 or 3 allocated specifically,
Yes.
and then a remaining, $10 million.
I
let's
don't
call it.
think it's going to be, but you.
It's in, affordability assistance, rental assistance. These are general.
Right, in different buckets.
Correct. And then if there's a particular project that you would like to see funded or benefited by this program, I would come back to you with a particular project. And the way it would work, if we're funding something in particular, the city would typically have me do some sort of an operating agreement or a funding agreement with that particular project to make sure that the funds are overseen and spent in the appropriate way.
So it's not necessary, so the plan does not, even in draft, does not necessarily allocate the entire $15 million. And I understand the concept of that bucket will constantly be replenished by
Correct.
additional contributions, which is wonderful. I do wonder if we might be able to have a specific program for our lead line replacements, which seems like a wonderful program that homeowners could perhaps take advantage of. But in any case, okay, that's fine. It was just a question popped into my head. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Do we want to do this as a whole? Is that okay with everybody?
So on that resolution, Mr. Booker. Aye. Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
Mr. La Palusa.
Aye.
I have to double check and see if we have any speakers. We have no speakers and nothing else. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And on the motion to adjourn, Mr. Booker. Mr. Carroll. Mr. Perez. Ms. Weimer. Mr. La Palusa.
See you all next Wednesday. Aye.